But it's like, let's pick up where we left off last time. On the page in front of you, 135, we'll start again from Nun Vav on the top. We have to remember there are two levels of functioning. You function either begadlus or you're bekatnus. What does it mean, begadlus or bekatnus? Begadlus means that you have prepared yourself properly before davening. You know you're in a makom kadosh, and if it happens to be that you're not davening in a shul, in a makom kadosh, you're davening in your own home, but you did prepare yourself before davening, you realize you're going to talk to God, then you can be in the matzah of what we call godless. That means a rational and emotional maturity. You are totally conscious that you are in the presence of God and talking to Him. And He's listening to you. And you are in the most intimate relationship that you could possibly be. Why? Because the relationship is taking in the level of thought. Thought is something which is not at all tangible. Thought is not tangible. It's not something that's gashmi at all. It's only what you thought. I don't even know how to explain what thought is. It's something which is, we call theoretical. It's, I don't know, it's something which is mindful. It's not at all something that you can grasp. Thought, an idea, thinking. That's where you connect to Hashem. That's where you connect in thought. And if it's your thought and His thought, there's nothing that can be closer than that. That's what we call a very intimate relationship. So you have to be very careful when you're having such a relationship. If you would be walking into, let's say, some very high-powered personage, and you're having a very, let's say, important meeting with him, you wouldn't want anybody to disturb that. You wouldn't want anyone to knock on the door and come in. Even his servants, his messengers, you wouldn't want anyone to disturb that. You have a very high focused relationship right now with this person, and you want to keep it focused until you're finished with no disturbances. That's how you are. That's what you call godless. That's the element of godless. That's godless. We're not talking about being bar mitzvah or more or under bar mitzvah. We're talking about godless in your mental maturity, your emotional maturity, where you are right now. So if you're in a shul, it's easier because the whole area, the whole place, the atmosphere is more of kedusha. But if you're at home, and as many people were at home during the corona crisis, then you still can be begodless. It's a little bit, you have to work a little bit harder because you don't have the atmosphere. But you can make it yourself. You prepare yourself beforehand and do all the hachanas that you're supposed to. You can be. So, we have to realize that if you're not at that real level, you're not there, but you're going through the motions. You have the siddur open and you're davening, you're going through the motions. So you are in the level of katnus. You think yourself, you're a very good Jew, I'm doing what I have to do, I have my tefillin on, and I'm davening and I'm saying the words, but if you're not up there, you're still in the madriga of katnus. And the ideal is to be on the madriga of godless when you're davening. You realize that you're so close and so intimate because you're connecting on the level of thought. And that's what is Hashem? Can we describe Hashem? Remember what we said. There's no words that we have that can describe positively Hashem's essence. We only say what Hashem is not. He's not this and he's not that. Very difficult to describe the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The closest we can come, and this is a revelation, the closest we can come to describing Hashem's essence is a word that we all are familiar with. Anybody remember?
Chesed?
No, that's correct, but it's not the essence.
Okay.
Chesed is a midah of Hashem. It's an attribute of Hashem. No, also not. We use the word intelligence. What is intelligence? Can you understand? Can you grasp what is it? What is intelligence? What is it?
We know it when we see it.
No, you don't know it. When you don't see, you can't see it. You can see people who have intelligence.
Yeah.
They behave and talk in a certain way. But what the intelligence itself? What is it? Very difficult to grasp that. So we can say, at coming as close as we can. Where do I have a raya to this because I was learning in the Sefer Yetzirah, the parish of the Rabbi, the Sefer Yetzirah. He uses the word when describing the Olamis Hoyonim. He uses the word even before the Olam Hamed were created. There was something that he calls a seichel. Seichel. The seichel is like intelligence. But the Rebbeinu Shalom is seichel is intelligence, but that's a creation. Hashem is above the creation. He's above seichel. Seichel is something that He created. But it's close, we can't get any closer than that. He's a super above intelligence. And you're connecting with the Kodesh Baruch. If you're a begodless, you're connecting with your intelligence to His intelligence. Then you know that you're on the level of godless at the time that you're doing that. But if you're not doing that, then you're in katnus. No matter, you could be 89 years old, 90 years old, but you're still katnus. Doesn't make a difference. So he says about Shem Tov, don't lose it. Don't lose faith and don't lose cheshik. Says in Nun Vav, they're on the page in front of you. You have it? Nun Vav, here. You have here. Take it.
Second paragraph.
Nun. I don't know. Wait, no, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. I see it. Yeah.
So, Kabbalistically, it says that the Ein Sof connects with Chachma. So it's the Ein Sof connecting firstly with
Ein Sof
intelligence.
connects with Kesser, not with Chachma.
Ein Sof is Ketcher.
Well, it's not, you see.
Oh.
Kesser is below Ein Sof.
Is what?
Below Ein Sof.
Ketcher is below.
Sure. Ein Sof means that it's infinite. Keter is already something finite. It is something, a Keter. It's something finite. And Hashem is infinite. So how could it be the same? But they're very close. Okay, take a look at what it says in Nun Vav. Kishiyeh b'katnus. When a person is on the average level, like the average person that you know that I see every single day in shul, we are all b'derech klal b'katnus. We're not on the level that we just described because we don't put the effort into getting there. So we're not in godless, but we know that it exists and we know that we can be there. We can be there. We can, what we described just now, a person can be on that level. It can be, if you try to do it, you can do it. You're realizing that you're on a very, very high level, connecting to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, your intelligence with His intelligence, and that's very, very intimate, and you don't want anything to disturb that. And therefore, what happens if you have a machshava zora? If something else comes into your mind at the time that that's happening, you should know the Baal Shem Tov spends a lot of time, and we're going to get to it, B'yetz Hashem, everyone should be gesund, we should all get to it, a lot of time on that problem. He spends a lot of time on that problem. What do you do when something comes in to disturb that union of the two intelligences, your intelligence and Hashem's intelligence? What do you do? How do you avoid it? What do you do if it happens? It's a very big problem. Very big problem. I'll just tell you one little point. His Talmidim came to him, the Baal Shem Tov, and they said to him, Rebbe, we heard that in such and such a town, there's another Rav, another Admor, who's becoming very popular, and the people are going to him, and we want to go also to see, we want to see what kind of person this is. We want to know. How can we find out if he's Amiti or not? Give us a way to find out if he's a true tzaddik or he's not a true tzaddik. So Baal Shem Tov said to them, I'll tell you what to do. Tell the person, ask the person, this new Rav who's coming up, is budding up, ask him, what is the solution for machshavas zoros in the middle of davening? How do you solve that problem? How do you get around it? How do you avoid it? So Baal Shem Tov said, if he gives you an answer, you know he's a phony. Because there's almost no way to avoid it. It's almost impossible. Not impossible, but it's almost impossible. So if he gives you an answer, this is the pitara, this is the way, you should know, forget it. Don't go to him anymore. He's not Amitu. So it's a very, very, very difficult thing. Yes?
Yeah, I only can support your point.
Yeah.
For years I tried to be focusing on the Birkat Kohanim. Amida is very long, but Birkat Kohanim is very short. How long is it? 2 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Just for this short time to be focused on the words, each word, just to focus on each word.
Right.
Yeah, what you say. They say the name of Hashem, so you focus on the letters of the name.
Okay.
There's all the time something coming in the middle of that for this short time. Exactly what you say. I don't know how to stop it. Huh?
Well, there's a lot of material in the Baal Shem Tov on this topic. We'll get to it, Mr. Hashem, but right now, let's do what we're holding. I just want to give you a little bit of taste. All right, so anyway, so says the Baal Shem Tov there, Ois Nun Vav. Kishiyeh B'kadnus, when you're on a regular average level, Yeh Gam Kein B'dveikus Gadol L'Mashchina. Nevertheless, try to focus as much as you can, even on the low level. You're not in the level really, connecting up there on top. Do what you can to focus on the low level too. V'achar kach, b'regi echad, Tekiv kishiyachshav ba'olam elyon miyad hu ba'olam esol. So you start off low. As the average person. And you feel bad about it. You really want to get up there. And you want to be up to a level where you are completely disconnected. You're so focused. Let me, if I gave you an example. If I told you that every word you say, every letter that you say, and you're totally focused, you get $100 for each letter. $100 for each letter. That's all. I think you would beat your brains out. You beat your brains out not to have anything disturb you. You would do everything you can. $100 for each letter? Without any disturbing thoughts. $100 for each letter. You'd go crazy to get that word in there without disturbance. So, if you do that, you can jump from being a cotton to becoming a gadol. Just think for a second. Every word's going to give you $100. $100? What's $100? Connecting to a Kodesh Baruch Hu is worth billions, trillions. What's $100? Can you imagine what that means to connect with the Melech B'chayim Lachim? Can you imagine what that means? So in 1 second you can jump. Now look at the Yisod. Shekemo sha'adam mechashev sham hu. V'im lo haya ba'olam elyon lo haya machashiv klal. Now here he's saying a very important thing. You have to remember this. Don't think that if you are sitting here and I'm sitting here and you're sitting there, or you're sitting in your seat in shul, that that's where you are. Don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake. You ask any scientist, they ask you where you are, they'll say, you're sitting right there. What do you mean asking me where I am? But it's not emes lamito. It's not emes lamito. You know why? Because who are you? I ask you, where are you? I'm sitting here. You're sitting here, but the body is sitting here. The you is not the body. The you is your neshama. Where's your neshama? Where's your mind? Where's your seichel? That's where you really are. Not where your body is. So people could be physically here, and their mind could be someplace else altogether. And where their mind is, that's where they really are. Because that's the true essence, that the true pneumius of the person is his mind. What goes up to Shemayim? What stays after your body goes into the grave? Your mind. The mind. That's what it is. That's what goes up. That's it. That's your true. That stays forever. So, remember, where your mind is, that's where you really are. And if you're standing in the middle of Danish Shmona Esrei and you're thinking about what you're going to buy in the Makolet after davening, that's where you are. You're not here. You're not here. You're in the Makolet. In the middle of Shmona Esrei, you're in the Makolet. That's where you are. Now here you want to see a very important thing. Look down below on the page. Look below on the page. Look at the second column, where it starts on the bottom. Ode. See there?
Yeah.
See? Look at the second column, left side, third paragraph down. Ode b'sefer ksunas pasim. You see that? You got that?
Yeah.
Okay, look what he says there. Pashas Tazriya, Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, Zel Shono. Kibalti Nimori. Sheyesh Leida Imhu Mekushar Ba'olam HaChayim or Lehepich Ba'olam HaMisa. You can know which olam you're attached to. The living world, the true world, or the fake world. He calls that the olam HaMisa. Look what he says. Im nafsho chashka ledaber lashon hara v'leitzanus ukiyotze. You have a desire to gossip, to gab. You have a desire. You want to talk with your friends. You want to say what's doing in the news. You want to talk about all the current events. Hu kashur ba'olam hamisa. Meaning to say that you're living at that moment, where that's where your mind is. You're in the olam of sheker. The Zohar says, this olam is an olam v'shikra. And if you want to discuss what's going on in this world, that's where you are. Your mind is in the olam, and he calls it olam hamisa. Why olam hamisa? Because this world is not going to be forever. Something that eventually is going to peter out. It's considered as if it's already, gone. It's gornish begornish, olam hamisa. Ubehefech im nafshoy chashka b'tayra v'maisim toivim. If you have a desire to be connected to that, that's what's in your mind. Oz yede b'nafsho shu kosher ba'olam hachayim. Because that is what's everlasting. That's what's everlasting. Now he says Torah v'maisim toivim. Now I'll tell you a chiddush. Tell you a chiddush about maisim toivim. Well, Shem Tov says in another place, we know that every year after a person's nifter, he has a yard site. And what happens on the yard site? His children, grandchildren, relatives, they say Kaddish, They learn Mishnayos, say Tehillim, Shliach Tzibur. What do they do that for? What do they do that for? What does that have to do? What would that have to do with him? He's gone already a long time already. He was nifter 10 years ago. What's going to mean me helping now, saying Kaddish to him while he was alive, whatever he can do? So that helps his neshama. What's going to be? What's my saying Kaddish or davening for the being of Shliach Tzibur? What's it going to do? The answer is, every year when a person is nifter, he has to go through a mishpat in Shamayim, Bezdin Shamayim. He goes through a judgment, just like he went through a judgment on the day he was nifter. Every year, he has also another judgment. The first entire year, he is busy all year long with his judgment. The first entire year, it's a mishpat, a long drawn-out case, a full year long. And what do they do during that year? All the major aveiros that a person did in his life are handled during the first year. And then he's in Gehenna for that time, till he gets cleaned out. And then after we assume that he's a tzaddik, even a tzaddik has to go through Gehenna. No tzaddik is perfect with no aveiros. Everybody has some kind of aveira. So after 11 months, we say, or 12, whatever it is, he's free. And he goes into Gan Eden. But comes next year, so you have to go through a mishpat again. And he has to go through other aveiros which wasn't handled in the first year. So every year on the yard site, the nifter goes through a mishpat, and after he gets his psak, his neshama is elevated. He is cleansed from that. He has gone through his term of cleansing. Now he can go higher to another level in Shemayim. What does and so meanwhile, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're saying Kaddish for him, learning Mishnayos for him. So why is that helpful? Helpful is because it's either his children, or grandchildren, or his talmidim, or his friends. Because of him, we're doing these mitzvahs. And these mitzvahs are a praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if we're praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, we're sort of putting HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a better mood, making him more rachamim than din, and therefore he will be kinder to the neshama because of our deeds, especially if we are the descendants. He'll be kinder to the neshama. We don't mention a word of the nifter in the Kaddish. Nothing is said at all about the nifter. All we're saying, Yizgadal, Yizgadal, Shemei Rabbah, Hashem's name should be great. Praising Hashem, his descendants praising Hashem, makes Hashem, so to speak, in a better mood, and that will be a plus for the neshama because his descendants are part of him, and therefore it's like he's praising Hashem too, so they'll be kinder to Hashem. What do you do when all the aveiros are cleansed? He was nifter already 30 years ago, and he had 30 mishpatim. And in 30 years is plenty of time to clean out all the aveiros. But we're not happy with that. We want his neshama to go higher and higher and higher. How are we going to get his neshama to go higher and higher? There's no more mishpat for him. The answer is, says the Baal Shem Tov, say over his maisim tovim. If you talk about his good deeds, that will also elevate the neshama without a din. That's what the Baal Shem Tov over here mentions. If you are kashur Torah in maisim tovim, then you are kashur to the olam hachayim, and that can also benefit your relatives, father, grandfather, whoever it is you're saying for, because those things remain forever. Maisim tovim have a remaining character about them, and because they're all mitzvahs, and therefore they elevate the neshama too. Okay, so he tells us over here at another place. If you look up on the same column, look up to the top, It starts off with Parshas Maseh. You see Parshas Maseh, three paragraphs up. It's the first large print on the same side up on top. Parshas Maseh. We got it? You see? You see that here? So he says, Zel Shono. U'makom shemachshavto shel adam sham hu kulo. Where your machshav is, that's where you all are. Av shebe'etzem eino omed b'makom machshavto. Even though in reality your body is not there, you're not standing where your machshav is. Im kol zeh gufa basa reisha greira. The guf is considered as it goes after the head. Wherever your head is, it's considered as if your guf is there too. Ayin lil Parshas Bereshis, Misham Ba'agol Kuf Chav Dalet, Ulkama Parshas Lech Lecha, Parshas B'Ku Kosai. So in Parshas Bereshis, I'll read to you, just you don't have it in front of you, I'll just read to you what it says there in Parshas Bereshis. Parshas Bereshis, the Baal Shem Tov says, listen to his words. Kishehu mechashev b'dvarim ra'im. If you're thinking about bad things, chalil v'chas, shehem misitra dedina. Bad things are not a good influence. They bring din on you. They bring not rachim, din. Misitra dedina. Oz, what happens? Look what he says. You have now made your mind like a laser. When you're thinking about bad things, your mind becomes like a laser and it's concentrated on these evil things. What we just learned over here is expanded over here. When you're thinking about bad things, you're focusing your mind on those bad things, and you're not allowing Hashem's chesed to influence you. You're stopping it. Hashem is willing to give his chesed all the time. But you put up blocks, it's not going to come through. For instance, like the sun. The sun shines all the time during the day. It's always shining. And the raya is, you go into a plane, you go above it's a cloudy day, you go above the clouds, you see the sun is bright, shining all the time.
Where does the Baal Shem Tov, what's the source for this? Where is he getting this from? About thinking an evil thought and blocking out this Hashem.
Well, it's just the knowledge that he has from...
He said it's from Bereshi.
No, it's in Parshas Bereshis. In Parshas Bereshis, he says this commentary in Parshas Bereshis. So you're blocking HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed. It's like putting a cloud up. It could be the sunniest day in Shemayim, but if it's cloudy down here, the sun's rays are not going to come through full force. You only get a little bit. It's a cloudy day, you don't see any rays of the sun, even though the sun is bright and strong. But the clouds, what are clouds? Fluffy, moisture together. And that's blocking out the sun. The sun can't come through. Just clouds. Fluffy air with some mist. It blocks out the sun. The sun's much more powerful than the clouds. Nevertheless, the clouds block out the sun's rays. Amazing. Amazing. The same thing happens, he says, the Baal Shem Tov. If you think thoughts which are negative, you're blocking HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ability to rain chesed on you. You're blocking it out. You're focusing your mind, it's like a laser, focusing your mind on negative things. Even if you're thinking about Gashmias, הוא מצמצם לשם את מחשבתו, שכל מקום שהוא מחשב בו, הוא ממשיך עצמו לשם, שהמחשבו הוא קיימה שלמה. Amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. We have to live in this world. We have to live in this world, right? You have to eat, you have to drink, we have to have a parnasa, you have to do things, correct? He says to us, the Shem Tov, if you think about the physical aspects of these inyanim that you're involved in on a day-to-day basis, you should know you're blocking out HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed because you are involved in Gashmias. So how do you avoid it? How do you avoid it? You have to work for a living. You have to work for a living. You're a baker, you're a painter, whatever you want. You're an architect. You have to work with rules and computers. What do you mean I shouldn't work? What do I do a whole day long? Think about it, Kodesh Baruch Hu. How am I going to live?
It's like the Balatanya said, live with the times, the Torah portion, every week. Go with the times.
Well, I don't know if you meant what I'm going to say. It sounds like you're on the same track. The point is, how do you do it? You do it because you say, this is Hashem's Ratzon, that I should be Isaac in Parnasa, and I have to realize that in the Parnasa that I'm in Isaac, in this Gashmi is that I'm reading a book, or I'm writing something, I know that in this Gashmi is inside the book there's Kedusha. It doesn't have to be a book about the Shem Tov. It could be a book about art, a book about mathematics. There's Kedusha in that also. If there was no Kedusha in it, then it wouldn't exist. In Iraq there's Kedusha. So you have to realize, if you have that in your mind, that means you're not focused on the externals, on the chitzonius, you're focused on, this is one of the brias of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, has a Kodesh Baruch Hu's Kedusha inside it, so you're not focused only on the externals, on the chitzonius. Because he says that he machashes begashmius. He doesn't say even machshavas ros, even begashmius. If you think only about the externals, the physical material, what you see, you're blacking out the chesed. You have to be connected all the time. You have to be connected. How are you connected? By your awareness that all the Gashmias is imbued with Kedusha. If Iraq did not have any nitzazes of Kedusha in it, it would completely explode, fall apart. It couldn't be. There has to be Kedusha inside the rock to hold it together. If you have that awareness, then you're connected still. You're connected still. So that is all part of where your machshava has to be. So anytime you're Isaac with Gashmias, if you want to be on a proper level and you want a chesed to come with you all the time, you have to be connected. To be always connected, always connected. That's the point. The way your mind is, there was a meeting between two big admorim, and they wanted to show each other that they are on a certain level, and each one was saying, I can tell you what's in your mind. Can you tell me what's in my mind?
Yeah.
They weren't mind readers. They didn't have ESP. They didn't have it. So he said, okay, tell me what's in my mind. So he said, you're thinking of the Shem Hashem. How do you know that? Because any person who's a tzaddik, any person who's a real tzaddik, amiti, there's no such thing in your mind as blank. There's no such thing. If you're not thinking about a Dvar Torah, or then you're thinking about, you want to be connected all the time. So you're thinking about Hashem, Shavisi Hashem, the Negdi Summit. That's the way it works. A tzaddik, amiti, that's the way he lives his life. He is totally connected all the time. That's why he has a special hashkacha pratis on him, because he's connected. But he says, if you think about Gashmias, that means you say that you are distracted from the pnimius, you're thinking only about the externals, you're hungry. Oh, a hot day, here's a beautiful piece of cold watermelon. I can't wait to sink my teeth into the watermelon, the juicy cold watermelon, the sweet cold water of the watermelon. It's so good, makes me feel so good. Oh, you just lost it. You lost it. You just lost it. You were connected. You think about, what about the kedusha that gives the watermelon its color, its sweetness? Did you think about that? You forgot about that. You only think about the taste buds and how it feels going down your throat. You lost it. You lost it. Very important.
Sure.
It's very important. And this is talking about when you're not davening. When you are davening, bevadai, you have to work on it. You have to start out the davening that way, to be connected throughout the entire davening. Be connected. Then you're on the madrega of godless. That's godless. You realize, that's what it says on some of the parochos of the Aron Kodesh. Da lifnei mi ata omed. You have to have a total awareness about that. Total awareness about that. Da means that you have to internalize it. You have to feel it inside you. Da lifnei mi ata omed. That means you're having now a communion with your intelligence, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu tells us, on the thought level. And when you're on that level, let me ask you a question. You're on that level. You really have to have deep concentration. You ever see people davening Shmona Esrei? How would you want to daven Shmona Esrei if you wanted to be on the concentration level? On focusing and connecting with your thoughts to Kodesh Baruch Hu's thoughts, on the thought level. What would you be doing in Shmona Esrei to make sure that you're most successful? How would you stand Shmona Esrei? Would you stand Shmona Esrei like this, as some people do in the middle of Shmona Esrei, back and forth? Or would you stand still, not moving, just barely moving your lips, or not even sometimes not moving them at all? Your lips are closed and you're just thinking, connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you think would be the most successful way? Which of the two?
The second one, I think.
The second one.
Of course the second one. Of course the second one. The Shloah HaKadosh says that even though David HaMelech said, Kol atzmoisai taimarna, I want to praise Hashem with my whole body, I'm shaking back and forth. That's fine and good for Psuki de Zimra. Fine, you're saying Hallel to Hashem. When it comes to Shmona Esrei, you don't move. You don't move. You barely move your lips. Many years ago, I went to 770. I used to live in New York. I went to Chabad. The Rebbe, Olav Shalom, was alive, and I was there watching them daven. So I was watching the Rebbe. The Rebbe stands by his stender, doesn't move an eyelid, nothing. No movement at all. Nothing. Now watching all the Hasidim, look back and forth, they're all davening this way. I said to them afterwards, I said, I don't understand. You dress the kind of hat the Rebbe wears and the kind of kapot that he wears. You do everything like the Rebbe. Well, why don't you daven like the Rebbe? Stand still. You know what they answered me? They said, we're trying to get in. He's already on the inside. It's a teretz. It's true, but it's a teretz. It's true. They can also be that way too. We can also do it. When you stand Shmona Esrei, when I was younger also, I used to shake back and forth. That's the way I was brought up in the yeshivas. That's the way they taught us. But once I started to learn what davening is all about, what real davening is about, don't move. Except for bowing Baruch Atah 4 times, first 2 brachas and at the end. Don't move during Shmona Esrei. Don't move. That's the way you can if you start moving around, movement is a distraction to thought. It distracts you from focusing. How can you connect if you're moving back and forth? That takes away energy from the energy. You need that energy for focusing. Mind uses a tremendous amount of energy. So you need that when you're davening Shmona Esrei. You want to connect to Kodesh Baruch Hu. You need all you can get. All you can get. There's no room for movement during Shemona Esrei. Beforehand, yes. Okay, let's see. Go back to what we're holding. So, all right, let's take a look at the next paragraph on the page that you have in front of you, 135, the second paragraph, Ubeleket Imre Peninim. Ubeleket Imre Peninim. Daf Reish Tes Amid Beis. You see that? Ubeleket Imre Peninim? Mm-hmm. Here, I think it is, no? Yeah. Ubeleket Imre Peninim. Let's read that. Daf Reish Tes Amid Beis, Hetik Bezel Shono. Shamaiti Mefurash, Mipi Mori, the Makom Shechoshev Ha'adam, where a person is thinking, Sham Hu Kulo. That's where you really are. That's Sham Hu Kulo. Im Choshev B'Kedusha, B'Mitzias Hashem Yisbarach. If you're thinking about Hashem's reality, U'B'Yichudei Shmosav, His names, Diukno Shalo, Shalom Kami Atik Yomin, how Kodesh Baruch Hu is so shalem, Kisham Hu Kulo. V'chein HaMahara Hurim Roim V'Kashim, Omei Mamash B'Gehino, V'Eisha Gehino Mamash Bo'erbo. You hear that, Rabbi say? The person has evil thoughts. Don't think that Gehenna is a place that you go to after you're nifter. You can be right in the middle of Gehenna while you're still alive here. V'chein HaMahara Hurim Roim V'Kashim, Omei Mamash B'Gehino, V'Eisha Gehino Mamash Bo'erbo. While you're alive, you're in the lowest levels. And surely after a person's nifta, he's going to certainly go there. But he's already there right now. Yardu Sha'ol Chayim. You have gone down to Gehenim while you're still alive. V'tzadikim yismechu b'simcha. However, tzadikim, they will always be besimcha, oisyos machshava. The word besimcha is the same letter as machshava. Ya'alu lifnei Elokim. They will always be joyous in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because why? Because their machshava is focused in the right place. And that's during the regular day, during the regular routine. And of course again, when it comes to tefillah. Okay. All right. Now I'm turning the page. I didn't make a copy of the next page, but I'll read you what the top line, and this is a very important thing to remember. He says a one-liner. Get this. Listen to this carefully. Eino yochol litpalel karoi. A person should know that you cannot daven properly im ein lo or makifoso mikol tzadov v'slivosav sheyakish osei makif. This is amazing. This is amazing. Shem Tov says one of the conditions that you need to be on the level of godless is you have to have the proper atmosphere surrounding you. And he calls that an or makif, a light which surrounds you. How do you bring that light upon you? And you have to feel it. How do you do that? How do you do that? Well, anyone who's married shouldn't have a problem with it. But even if you're not married, it's kedai to take on the practice. What are we talking about? Wrapping yourself in a talis. Wrapping yourself in a talis is almost the same as going into a sukkah. A sukkah. You go into a sukkah, you are totally enwrapped in this aura of Kedusha which envelops you, and you're inside it. You are wrapped around, and you know what they say about the Kedusha, about the sukkah? It's brought down in the Mefarshim. When a person is in a sukkah, he has to think that he's in a basic knesses. A sukkah is a makom kadosh. When you build the sukkah, you put the schacha, you have to say, l'shem mitzvahs sukkah. It has kedusha, almost like a basic knesses. The basic knesses is a migdash ma'at, is kedusha. A sukkah has kedusha as well. Except that the basic knesses, you're not allowed to sleep. It's considered bizayon to sleep in the basic knesses. In a sukkah, bedavka, you have to sleep. But sukkah is teishul. So there's one mila of a basic knesses that a sukkah that a basic knesses doesn't have. A basic knesses, you're not allowed to sleep. And a sukkah, you're chayiv to sleep. And the Ben Ish Chai says, during sukkahs, if you see somebody who falls asleep outside the sukkah, normally during the year, if somebody falls asleep, he's tired, he fell asleep. So to wake him up is also to wake him up. It's gezel. He's sleeping. How can you wake up a person? He fell asleep, he's tired. You wake him up as gezel sheina. Gezel sheina. But during sukkahs, if a person falls asleep and he's not in the sukkah,
you can wake him up.
You have to wake him up because you're saving him from an aveira. He's doing an aveira by sleeping outside the sukkah. But sukkah's teishvu shiva shamim. You have to have a sukkah 24 hours a day. You're supposed to be sleeping in the sukkah, eating in the sukkah, everything in the sukkah.
You can't eat in it. You can't.
What about if they come in weather?
You can't eat either.
That's right. That's right. Right. Well, all right. Yeah.
What about if it's inclement weather?
Okay, so then you're potter. I mean, if it's raining, you can't sit in the sukkah. You can't sit. But when the sukkah is, able to sit, you have to be there. You have to live there, of course. So anyway, so when you put on your talis, you're surrounding yourself with this or makif, enveloping you. So we say, well, it's the minhag, about the Ashkenazim, that they don't put a talis on until they're married. So who says that all Ashkenazim do that? No, not all Ashkenazim do that. The Yekis, they put on a talis even before they're married. There's no reason why you can't wear a talis.
They don't mizrach also.
Well, that for sure. There's a mizrach of vadai. In mizrach of vadai. Put on a talis.
They're used to it. They're wearing their yekis all the time.
But it's a very kedai to wear a talis. Talis katan is not so much makif like a talis gadol. So in the Gemara it's brought down, when you're not married, so they didn't put the talis over their head, but they wore a talis. You're surrounding yourself with this or makif. You have to realize a talis has kedusha. A talis has kedusha. What do we say in the bracha? Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav, lisatei patzitzis. Lisatei. Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav. The talis has kedusha. So one of the requirements of the Baal Shem Tov to be able to daven properly is to be enwrapped in a aura of kedusha, and therefore it's very important to wear a talis. Very important to wear a talis. Even if you're not married, there's no reason you can wear a talis anyway. All right, we'll have to pick this up next week, Mitzvah Hashem.